Okay, so today we're going to do a little refresh on averages and finding an estimate of the mean from a grouped frequency table. So we're finding an estimate of the mean. Okay, so the first thing to mention is when we're dealing with grouped data, we are always talking about an estimate. We don't have the exact values within the table. So unlike a normal frequency table, which deals with discrete data, when we're dealing with continuous data in a grouped frequency table, we have to be referring to an estimate of the mean, not an exact value of the mean, as we don't know every exact value contained within the question. Okay, so a standard exam question would look like this. You'd be given two columns. The first column will have your continuous data, your groups, and your second column will have your totals or your frequencies. So what that is telling us there is in this class, there are 5 pupils. So there are 5 pupils who are quite light, who come between the values of 40 and less than 50 kilograms. Again, this refers to why it's an estimate. We do not know if those pupils were 41, 42, 42, and 49, and 48. We just know that they land within that group, anywhere from 40 inclusive up to less than 59. The table also tells us that there is 7 students who weigh in between 70 and less than 80 kilograms. So every value in this frequency column represents 1 pupil. Okay. The first thing we need to do to approach the question is we need to find a middle value of the grouped data. We can't really start calculating when we're dealing with a group, when we're dealing with 40 to 50. We don't have a value to use in our calculations. So we're going to find a mid value of the group. Mid value of 40 to 50 is obviously 45. It's quite an easy group to deal with. If you are dealing with a more complex group, you could work out the mean of the two numbers by adding them together and dividing by 2. So we find out the mid value of each group. This mid value is going to help us find our next column. So again, we need to add a 4th column. So remember, the original question, the original exam question started with 2 columns, and now we've added a further 2 columns. So there's 4 columns involved in this question. The title of the 4th column is mid-value multiplied by frequency. So we're going to take our values from column 2, multiply them by our values from column 3 to get a total in our 4th column. So using our calculators, we come up with these multiplications to give us the 4th column. So what that is telling us now is this value here is an estimate of the total weight of the 5 pupils who were in this category. 550 is an estimate of the total combined weight of the 10 students who were in this category. So now we can start looking at some totals. If I was to add up all of these 4 numbers, we would get a total of how many pupils were in the class. If I was to add up these 4 totals, we would get a total of the total combined weight of every student within the class. So we're going to add those frequencies, and that tells me there is 30 pupils in the class. And I'm going to add those combined weights, which tells me that altogether, those 30 pupils have a combined weight of 1,820 kilograms. It's these 2 totals that I'm going to use to find my mean. One point to note here is, and it's a very common error, This value here, the total of the mid values, is not needed for the calculation. It's a very common error that I see students make on these type of questions. So to find the estimate of the mean, we take our total from column 4 and we divide it by our total from column 2 using our calculator, and we round it to an appropriate amount. So that is telling me that an estimate of the mean is 60.67 kilograms. An estimate of the average mean weight in this class of 30 students is 60.67 kilograms. Let's have a go at one more question. So again, you'll see the question is presented in a very similar way. We have a set of group data. It's in column 1, and we have some totals or frequencies in column 2. The table shows me the number of sweets in different bags, and we need to find an estimate for the number of sweets per bag. Again, we're talking about estimates because we know there is 2 bags of sweets that contain this many sweets, but we can't be precise because we don't know if it was 20, 21, 22, 23, or 24. We only know that it landed within that value. First step, we add the third column. The third column is the mid values. We find the midpoint or the mid value between 20 and 25, which is 22.5. Again, if we added them together and divided by 2, which is the same as finding the mean, we would get the same value. We find the mid value for each group, and we fill in the second column. We're now going to use that, fill in the third column. We're now going to use that third column to find some values for our fourth column. We're going to take the mid value or the midpoint and multiply by the frequency. So we're doing some multiplications. Calculator will be here to help us. Okay, so now I have, if I take the total of this column here, I'm going to get how many bags of sweets there was altogether. And if I take this value here and add them together, I'm going to get an estimate of the total number of individual sweets contained within these bags. So when I add the frequency, I get 60. So I'm dealing with 60 bags of sweets. And when I add the mid value times frequency column, I get 2,135. That's how many individual sweets altogether combined were contained as an estimate in the 60 bags. I take my total from column 4, I divide it by my total from column 2, which gives me an estimate of 35.58 sweets per bag. So again, we're presenting an estimate. That's not an exact mean, but it gives us a very good estimate as to how many sweets we can expect in each bag. Okay, so now it's your go to have a go at a few typical exam questions. So at this point, remember you have the ability to pause the video. So could you answer both of these exam questions by adding on some columns to the frequency table and working out an estimate of the mean for both questions? Once you unpause the video, I'll talk you through my worked solution and you can mark and assess your answer. Would you like to pause the video now? Okay, welcome back. I'm going to talk you through my solution. So we'll talk through question 1 first, the question on the left-hand side of the screen. My solution looks like this. So you can see we add a column for midpoint, we add a column for frequency multiplied by midpoint, we fill in those columns, then we need to take a total of column 4, a total of column 2, and it's these two values we use to do a division to find that our estimate of the mean in this case for money spent is £6.25. We'll now have a little look at question 2. So we're looking at money raised during a sponsored swim. My solution looks like this. Again, I've added column 3 and column 4. I've taken a total of column 4 and a total of column 2. Remember, the total for the third column, midpoint, is not needed, so that is why I have not included it. I take these two values and I divide them. 720 divided by 40 tells me that the estimate of the mean amount of money raised during the sponsored swim is £18. Okay, so here's another 2 typical exam questions for you to have a go at. So again, you have the ability to pause the video at this point, and then could you have a go at both questions? Okay, welcome back. I'll just quickly go through my worked solution for question 3, the question on the left-hand side of the screen, and my worked solution looks like so. Same idea. Third column, fourth column, finding a total of column 2 to get the total of the frequency, a total of column 4, using those two values in my division, telling me that the correct number of spellings, or an estimate of the mean of the correct number of spellings, is 20.8. If I now have a little look at question 4, my worked solution, we are looking at how many eggs are laid in each of 26 weeks. So you can see there was 1 week where 0 to 6 eggs were laid, but then there was 17 weeks when there was 14 to 20 eggs laid. You're asked to find an estimate of the mean amount of eggs laid. So this is what my my worked solution looks like. I end up with a total of column 2 being 26, a total of column 4 being 414. I go ahead and do that division. This time I've rounded my answer to 3 significant figures. So an estimate of the mean of how many eggs were laid would be 15.9 eggs. Okay, so if you've worked through those 4 typical exam questions and you have marked and assessed your work and you've been successful, then that is brilliant. You've shown some very good understanding of finding an estimate of the mean from a grouped frequency table.